Success Superstars, episode number 207, your place for inspiration and the blueprint of success for peak performers just like you. And my special guest today, Stephanie Fischer. Stephanie, welcome.
Hey, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, glad you're here. Say, tell the audience just a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Yeah, so I am with the North Austin office, and I live in the Liberty Hill area, so mainly work the Liberty Hill, Leander, Georgetown area. I moved up here about 2 years ago, and the growth has just been super crazy.
Yeah, it's really one of the fastest growing areas, not only in Texas, but in the entire country.
Yeah, for sure. When we moved up here 2 years ago, nobody wanted to live out here, and now people are fighting with each other to live out here.
Yeah. Well, it's so close to Round Rock, and Georgetown is just, I can't think of the restaurant I went through, but there's a couple of restaurants in Georgetown, and it's just such a cute town, isn't it?
Yes, and just definitely with people working from home now, more people working from home opportunities. They don't really need to live so close to Austin, so you get more land, more space out here typically.
Yeah. Now, Stephanie, you've had multiple success throughout the year. You're always on the leaderboard. You're always generating new business. And you had one of the largest year-over-year increases of any agent in the firm. Did that happen by accident?
Sort of, but not really.
Sort of,
I mean, I would
really.
say by accident in that, I've been an agent for a long time, and, I've always knew I was consistent with my follow-up and with reaching out and lead generation. And then, one day it just came to fruition. So it was definitely something I worked on for a long time before it worked. That's why I always tell people be consistent, don't give up, because one day it's going to be worth it. It's going to work, all your work that you put into it. So, it just finally kind of broke through. And then I got one listing, and it was sort of a snowball effect, and then it just all took off from there.
I mean, that's really the analogy. It's the snowball effect of when you do all of the right things, it takes time, and nothing's a quick fix, right?
Right. And that's the thing I hear from most agents is I'm doing all this stuff, but it's not working. Like I can't, get my systems to work. And I just always, the best advice I can give somebody is just to be patient, because it does take time. And there were times where I was like, am I doing this right? Is this going to pay off? If you spend money you don't necessarily have. And so, but it definitely does in the end if you stay consistent with it.
Just like every other entrepreneur who goes through starting a business, have the doubts. But do you ever look back and wish you did something else?
No, I love this job. I mean, it's stressful from time to time, but, helping people, and especially helping people reach their goals and either buy a new home or get to where they want to go, getting them the most money out of their house is very fulfilling. And I don't really know you could get that with any other career.
Yeah. What was it, if you could identify? Was there any one thing that created your breakthrough?
Yes. So I, in my neighborhood, we have a neighborhood page that people can post on, Business Wednesdays and things like that. So I always was posting. I consistently every Wednesday would post and, put market stats or whatever it may be. And then when I got my first listing in the neighborhood, I posted about that. And then it was the time when the market was kind of taking off and being super crazy, where people were paying high prices and over asking and all that. So I had a listing, and it was the highest price sale in the neighborhood at the time. And so I posted that, and that was kind of like, people were like, oh my gosh, wow, like this is awesome. And so just more people started reaching out. I got more and more listings, and then, just good words from neighbors. They're like, oh, she's so great, you should use her. And then just went on more meetings, more listing appointments, and then just continued to do a good job, and more people referred me, and, trying to still keep consistent with that. And I still post every Wednesday.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, one thing that I'm really proud about in our brokerage is 75% of the top 1%. So being in the top 1% of anything is pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But 75% of our top 1% are female entrepreneurs doing businesses from 20 to 40, 50, 60 million dollars of every race, color, creed. I mean, what's it like being in an industry that has no glass ceiling?
I mean, that's what's great about it, is it pushes you to go further all the time. You're like, it's basically a correlation of how hard you work, and you can kind of set your own, if I work this hard, I know I can do this much volume, you set goals for yourself. It's just an endless, so like there's just never a cap. So you don't have like, if I only get to this point, I can stop. So you just the possibilities are endless. And so that's what's so great about it, is you can just set a bigger goal every year. And that's really nice to have something where the sky's the limit.
Yeah. The only glass ceiling in place is whatever ceiling you put in your own mind, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you only want to do a certain amount and,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But.
Now, if you were to give consumers advice today, what would it be in this market?
Well, I guess so for buyers or sellers, or either.
Either one. What would you tell?
So for sellers, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need to, stage my house. I can list it at whatever I want because the market's so hot. It's so crazy. And that's something that I always tell people, it's still very important because yes, there's very little inventory on the market, but we still need to price it correctly. We still need to stage it because you're going to do better than your neighbor next door who doesn't do those things. And they may not think they have to, but you're going to attract more buyers. You're going to get more offers. You're going to make more money by just doing these small things. And with buyers, I would say, just don't give up. Again, the consistency, you might have to make offers on 10 to 12 homes before you get one. I know a lot of people that discourages. And I think if you tell them up front and you're honest with them, that it's going to be a lot easier for them to be ready for that. Because I think when people get that way, it's because they weren't warned or they just don't understand like what they're doing wrong, or they may think their realtor's doing something wrong, and that's not necessarily true.
What about the emotions? And I want to talk about investor clients next, but what about the emotions of the typical consumer buyer who gets beat out over and over and over? They're upset. How are you dealing with that on a day-to-day basis?
So for that, I would say just sharing success stories from other friends that are realtors and, hey, look, this person got this, this was their 20th house they had to offer on, like, maybe it wasn't the right house for you. And a lot of them are like, yeah, if it's not meant to be, then it's not going to happen. So a lot of them kind of go into that, they'll say, oh, well, this one wasn't the one for us. So I feel like just you managing your emotions and not getting worked up about it, or starting to be like, oh no, this is awful, or when they lose an offer, to just be like dramatic about it. I feel like just you managing your emotions helps them manage theirs as well.
Yeah. Now, are you also seeing investor in your area? You've got to see investor clients coming out wanting to buy, rental properties that they can be the landlord for.
Yes. Yeah. We still get a ton of investors. I would say even on my listings, anything under 500, probably 70% of the offers are investor offers. Mostly, of course, cash and all that stuff. So that's hard too, because that's hard for an average person to beat that out. And, if you don't have a big budget, that kind of doesn't help.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give other agents as we wrap up this episode?
Again, I think it's just about being consistent. Put yourself out there, get out and talk to people, put in the effort to do pop-bys. I'm big on pop-bys. I do them, seasonally on holidays, springtime, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like referral business is huge. Staying in front of people, even if manage your sphere first, like other than just trying to find dead leads, because those are going to be the people who already trust you. Mm-hmm. So I would work on that first, always do pop-bys, kind of stay in touch with them. And then on the side, try to find other people as well by doing cold call lead generation, or not cold call, but trying to like open houses, things like that, people you don't know. Well, but definitely your sphere is going to be the easiest, I think, to get to trust you, because they already do.
So Stephanie, one of the fears that people have around doing the pop-bys is they'll say, well, I just don't know what to say. And there's always something to talk about in real estate. How do you always have something to create a conversation with?
Well, so the pop-bys, not everybody's always home. So if they're not there, I'll just leave them on the door and send them a picture and say, hey, I dropped this off for you. Hope you're doing well. Maybe follow up with a phone call and say, hey, did you get the gift I left? How's it going? You heard about the market? You always start about, oh yeah, the market. Usually people are like, oh, the market's so crazy, right? And yes, and then you start talking about experience you've had or what's going on. And then maybe I've had one that was like, well, maybe we should, think about selling. And so I'm going to meet with them next week because they're really thinking about just going back home now because of what their house is worth.
And that all happened because of a pop-by where you left something?
Yep, it was a Christmas pop-by that I left on there.
Yeah, and sent they probably weren't even there. You sent a follow-up text, say, hey, I hope you got
They weren't, yeah. And they just said, oh, thank you so much for the gift. And hey, we actually want to talk to you about, putting our house on the market this spring. So
there you go.
Yep.
It's easy, but it's hard.
Yes, because I have a lot of friends who have realtors and they were like, I don't even remember who I used, or people who I sell their houses here in my neighborhood. A lot of them, probably 99% of them, use realtors when they bought, but they don't use that realtor to sell again. It's either because they had a bad experience or they just lost touch with them. So it's really important to stay in touch with past clients.
Just happened to me. I went in for my annual physical and we got to talk about real estate. Turned out that my doctor owned 3 properties. The agent had been in touch forever, and we got him connected with the JPAR agent because he wants to sell 2 of those 3 rental properties, and no one had been in touch.
Yeah, and I think that's like, they don't feel that much loyalty to you if you don't stay in touch with them, because 2 years goes by, they haven't heard from you or talked to you. They meet somebody else they might like, and okay, you're a nice person, so I'm going to use you this time, because they don't feel loyalty to you if you don't stay in touch with them and follow up with them and keep that connection.
It's just too competitive. All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us. It's always great to see you on the leaderboard and to see what you're doing in the marketplace and how you're serving as a servant leader your clients and consumers in the Round Rock, Georgetown, that whole North Austin area is super cool.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and I love JPAR and all the support that we get. And I don't think my business would have gotten this far with any other brokerage, so I'm super happy to be here. And
well, if folks have referrals to get you, if they have referrals to come down to in your area, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So probably email or text is always easiest. So you can always reach me on Facebook too. I'm pretty active on there as well.
Yeah, good. Well, the key in today's market, it doesn't seem like anybody's returning anybody's phone calls or text messages. So number one, just return your phone calls and text messages is one thing, right?
That is the biggest thing I can say too as an agent is, like, people ask me what's the advice to being successful? Answer your phone.
Yeah, and even if you're overwhelmed because of 30, 40 offers, at least you could have some standard text messages that says, hey, we're entertaining a bunch of offers. We're going to get back to everyone in 2 days, or just automate something so people don't start assuming things, right? Yeah.
Right. I had a listing in Round Rock that we got 20 offers on, and I took the time to reach out to every single agent to give them an update. And then once one was selected, I got back to every single person and told them, because that's the way that I would want to be treated. So, golden rule always.
Good for you. And that's why JPAR attracts a higher standard. So thank you for exceeding expectations.
Yep. Thank you, Mark.
All right. We'll talk soon. Until we see you again, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears.